In this video, we're going to take you through the full story of the Spurs' 1960-61 double winning season, with all of the results, facts, figures, and programme covers, from the opening match at home to Everton, right through to the FA Cup final at Wembley Stadium, and every match in between. The Tottenham team for the 1960-61 season. From left to right, Danny Blanchflower, Bill Brown, Ron Henry, Les Allen, Dave Mackay, Terry Dyson, Peter Baker, Maurice Norman, John White, Cliff Jones and Bobby Smith, with Bill Nicholson guiding the team. Spurs began their historic season on August 20th with a comfortable home win against Everton, with goals from Bobby Smith and Les Allen. On the Monday night, Spurs made the long trip north to play Blackpool. Spurs dominated the proceedings, and the only blemish was a last-minute consolation Blackpool goal. Another long trip north to Blackburn followed. Spurs flew out the blocks and were 3-0 up inside 17 minutes. Blackpool visited the Lane, but as they had 9 days earlier, would again lose 3-1. Bobby Smith smashing a hat-trick. Spurs led Sheffield Wednesday and Wolves by a point at the end of August. Spurs looked to maintain their 100% start when Man United visited the Lane. Spurs didn't look back after taking the lead inside just 5 minutes. Spurs were made to fight at Bolton after they took the lead. But a winner from the captain secured a fight-back win 10 minutes from time. Our North London rivals were next to try to stop us, but early goals from Frank Saul and Terry Dyson set us on the way to an exciting win. Having become the first ever club with 7 straight wins at the beginning of a season, Spurs eased past Bolton to make it 8. 3 days later, Spurs travelled to Leicester and had a more comfortable win than the scoreline suggests. The last Saturday of September saw Spurs thrash Aston Villa 6-2. Spurs had little trouble in disposing of the Midland side to make it 10 out of 10. After another perfect month, Spurs led the way. However, Sheffield Wednesday were undefeated and still clinging on to our coat-tails. A powerful away performance to start October with a bang. An 11th straight victory at the start of a season. A record that remains to this day. Points were finally dropped when Man City snatched a 1-1 draw at the Lane. This, despite Spurs dominating the match, with 39 shots to Man City's 2. After seeing their 100% start to the season finish, Spurs made amends with 2 consecutive away victories, scoring 4 goals on both trips. First at the City Ground against Forest, then at St James's Park against Newcastle. Despite a slight blemish on the record during October, the dream start continued. After 2 away victories to end October, Spurs started November with 2 home matches, and as had become accustomed, 2 victories over Cardiff and Fulham would be witnessed, with another 8 goals from the Lily Whites. In our 17th match, defeat was tasted for the first time. Unfortunately, it was to our closest challengers, who reduced the gap at the top of the table to 5 points. Spurs would bounce back with a vengeance, with 2 powerful wins over Birmingham and West Brom to finish November with a flourish. Despite tasting defeat for the first time during November, this was the only blemish in the month, and our lead had extended to 9 points as rivals lost ground. We'd share 8 goals in a thrilling match with the reigning league champions to start December. 2 comfortable victories in trips to the northwest, over Preston and Everton, would follow, to take us up to the festive period. Spurs would host West Ham on Christmas Eve, with the return fixture taking place on Boxing Day. Spurs gave their fans festive cheer with 2-0 and 3-0 victories, respectively. Spurs ended the year at home to Blackburn Rovers, with a crushing display, to beat the Lancastrians, 5-2. Spurs and their fans celebrated the new year, with a whopping 10-point gap at the top of the league table. Spurs started the road to Wembley, with a hard-fought victory over 2nd Division Charlton Athletic. League action resumed, with a trip to Old Trafford. Spurs failed to score for the first time and succumbed to their second defeat. What better way to rebound from defeat than beating your North London rivals at the Lane? The road to Wembley beckoned once more, with Crewe revisiting the Lane, 1 year on from that humbling 13-2 defeat. They restricted Spurs to just 5 this year. With a couple of cup weekends in January, there was little movement in the league table. A mixed return to the league, suffering home defeat to Leicester before winning at Aston Villa. 1 week on from winning at Villa Park, Spurs returned to repeat the feat in the FA Cup 5th round. Spurs finished February with a hard-fought draw at home to Wolves before grinding out a 1-0 victory at Man City. Spurs still firmly led the way at the end of February, but Sheffield Wednesday were lurking, with a game in hand. The march to the double almost came off the rails in the FA Cup quarter-final. After Sunderland got an equaliser in the 50th minute, Spurs were battered by the Roker Roar for the rest of the match, and were considered lucky to escape with a draw. Spurs made no mistake in the replay, blowing away Sunderland 5-0, and it could have been a lot more. Spurs' cup efforts may have taken their toll, as they went down to a 3-2 defeat at Cardiff. Wembley was the prize, following a 3-0 victory over Burnley at Villa Park, as Spurs reached the FA Cup final for the first time in 40 years. After the semi-final joy, disappointment followed in the league, with a home defeat to Newcastle, then a 0-0 draw at Fulham. Thankfully, Spurs returned to form on Good Friday, with a commanding win over Chelsea. A crucial month lay ahead of them as the season approached its climax. Although Spurs had secured a cup final place, March had been very tough on them. Sheffield Wednesday had closed the gap right down and were breathing down their necks in the league table. The pressure was really on. In a massive week in the league, Spurs pressed fully on the throttle, whilst Sheffield Wednesday stuttered. Spurs started with a 5-0 thrashing of Preston, then followed this up with a 3-2 win at Stamford Bridge. They completed the week with a hard-fought win at Birmingham. In the same week, while Spurs were securing maximum points, Sheffield Wednesday toiled to 3 draws. The defining night in the title race arrived, when Spurs beat their nearest challengers 2-1 and secured the league title. The crowd raced onto the pitch and awaited Danny Blanchflower to lead out the heroes to acknowledge the fans from the West Stand. Whether it was too much celebrating after securing the league title, or having one eye on the upcoming cup final, the team did not perform to their best over the last 3 league matches, losing 2 and scraping a 1-0 win at home in the other. A special commemorative programme was issued for the final league match of the season, at home to West Brom. The final league table was a thing of beauty, with Spurs 8 points clear of second place, amassing 31 wins out of 42 matches, scoring a staggering 115 goals along the way. Time to regroup and head on to Wembley for the cup final. And so, on to Wembley, with history beckoning. Bill Nicholson, knowing how tired his team was after the incredible league effort, tweaked tactics to a less cavalier game, making the final a more cautious affair than the Spurs faithful were used to. However, this tactical masterstroke from Bill Nick meant Leicester made a lot of the running. Then, when they started to run out of steam, Spurs pressed on, and 21 minutes into the second half, Bobby Smith scored the opener. The victory and dream double was secured 9 minutes later when Terry Dyson headed home the second. Danny Blanchflower would lead his team up the steps to the Royal Box to receive the cup. The first league and FA Cup double of the 20th century had been achieved. This is what the 1961 FA Cup final would have looked like being reported on Ceefax, had it been about at the time. Now available as a permanent keepsake, with this stunning print from Retro Football Prints. They have this and hundreds of other great prints, including dozens of Spurs-related ones. You can also get any cup final or league table produced in the Ceefax format, along with hundreds of vintage cup final program cover prints. The prints come in A3 and A4 sizes, which you get the PDF and JPEG for, so you can use them to print at home or use online print shops to get canvases professionally printed, the image printed onto mugs, t-shirts, etc. Once you've bought, you can reuse time and time again with no extra cost. All prints available individually for £3.99, or you can buy any 10 prints for just £19.95. Even better, if you use our promo code, SpursNostalgia50, you'll receive a 50% discount on all prices. Head over to retrofootballprints.co.uk now to see their full superb range. Thank you so much for watching Spurs Nostalgia. I'd be really grateful if you could give the video a like. It would also be appreciated if you could subscribe to the channel too. It's absolutely free to do so.